Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Live Connect meeting today. My name is Monica Richardson, and this here is Richard Howard, the organizer and founder of Ceeqa. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the third edition of Live Connect, whose primary purpose is to forge connections and discuss the situation in real estate market issues in Ukraine as the terrible war by Russia continues. Now, there's been a lot of damage, as we all know, to the built infrastructure of Ukraine. So this is our chance to get a heads up on what is possible and what is impossible in these very challenging times and preparations for the future post-war rebuilding. We can also discuss the wider issues, including Europe's preparedness for what's at stake today and what is likely to be at stake tomorrow. A lot depends on it. Now, to be clear, this is more of a conversation, a Q&A, than a conference. So anybody here is welcome at any time to ask a question or raise a point, whether they're online, which we'll know in a minute, or here live. Now, we also have what should be a very interesting live online connection with the greatest of all-time chess grandmaster and record-breaking world champion, Garry Kasparov, who has a few things to say about strategy and tactics in dealing with Russia and the war in Ukraine and the prospects for the human species. He is on record as saying, if we're going to achieve world peace and prosperity and avoid extinction, we need better humans as well as machines. So, let's see. Let's introduce everybody now. I'd like to welcome all our colleagues joining us from Ukraine today. We have Maxim Gavrushin, the Chief Operating Officer of Badhouse Group, one of Ukraine's most active developers. Welcome, sir. He's also chairman of the International Council of Shopping Centers in Ukraine. Badhouse has continued to deliver, including a new luxury residential scheme in Kiev, Linden Luxury Residences, which in fact won last year's Ceeqa Award for Building of the Year SEE, and that is some achievement. He has led the rebuilding and recovery of Nikolsky's Mall in the eastern city of Kharkiv, following a missile strike in 2022, and we look forward to an update on that as well. Can we just hear you say hello, sir, just to make sure that we can hear each other?
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Richard, for Ukrainian session.
Very nice to see you, Max.
Right. Volodymyr Tymoshko, Managing Director, Private Equity of Dragon Capital, Ukraine's largest internal investor. Dragon has continued to be active throughout the war, including recently acquiring a mall in Kiev. And we can look forward to hearing how all that works. Can you hear us, sir?
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Now, we also have live in person with us today, Andriy Brinziul. Are you here, Andriy?
Yes, hello.
Oh, here you are.
I know.
Here you are.
Wondering how. You didn't make it. You didn't get across the border, Andriy.
I didn't, but I tried. I did my best.
I heard you were trying. Yeah.
We're glad you're here.
Sorry to hear that.
Not somewhere
It's
imprisoned. Okay. Right. Andriy Brinziul leads Ukraine subsidiary of UK-based investment fund Argo. He successfully led the renovation and reopening of the largest shopping mall in Odessa shopping city, under challenging market conditions following severe damage by missile strike in 2022. And as of September 2024, 90% of stores have reopened, achieving a 98% occupancy rate and positive operating cash flow since January 2023. Congratulations. Andriy is also on this year's Ceeqa jury, so we'll be hearing from Andriy later on as well. Now, Anna Chubotina. Is Anna here? Hello? Hi. CEO of Arikano. Arikano is one of the largest retail developers in Ukraine, holding a portfolio of assets across the country, some in serious trouble spots like Zaporozhye. We look forward to hearing how she's managing to keep some kind of order and how a company like Arikano is planning for the aftermath of the war and future opportunities. We can hear each other, Anna?
Yeah, good day, everybody. So my pleasure to see you all here today, and thank you, Richard, for having me second time in a row. Thank you.
Absolutely. Pleasure is all ours. We also have Gana Koryagina, who is here. Hello, Gana, CEO of Ukraine and International Leasing Director for the Pan-European Asset Manager, Developer and Commercialization Services Provider, NUD. She's in fact involved in a new project, Ocean Mall in Kiev, which probably most of you have heard about, particularly our Ukrainian colleagues. Hello. And we're also pleased to welcome Oleg Fedulin from EBRD. Oleg?
Oleg, did he make it here? No, I can't see him.
No, he's not here.
I can't see him.
Right. And thank you to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. We also have an...
Oleg's here.
Oleg?
Right. We just introduced you, Oleg.
Come join us.
We just introduced you.
EBRD, I'm sure he knows all of you, and vice versa, so please come and join us, Oleg. EBRD's work being vital for Ukrainian investors and developers these days. Right, so the idea is to pass the mic quickly now, Richard. Are we doing that?
I think so. Well, actually, you know, I think I'm conscious of the fact that we started a bit late because guests arriving late, Oleg, and we're eating up Mr. Kasparov's time. And so I wonder if we should turn this around a bit and ask Gary to step forward and have a chat now.
Absolutely.
And then we will move on to the Ukraine stuff after that. Is everyone happy with that idea? Everyone happy?
Good.
Nod the heads, yes?
Richard, the floor is yours then.
Great, okay. So, we were talking about this. First of all, let me introduce Gary Kasparov. So Gary is still widely regarded as the GOAT, the greatest of all time chess player in human history. That includes 15 years as world champion, which was a record, and more than 20 years as world number one, which was a record. And has since then become a respected and important political commentator, particularly on issues to do with Russia and Russian expansionism and Putin. And so obviously he has quite a big interest in the Ukraine war. Welcome, Gary. Very nice to meet you. Great honor to meet you. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. So just for your very short description of my accomplishments, I can add that I'm now indicted terrorist by Putin's regime. So with 2 standing warrants for my arrest. And also alongside of many of my friends being tried for state treason, which again, it's probably soon to come.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you're to come to someone like Poland right now would be a high security risk for you, wouldn't it?
Poland? No,
Poland.
No, why you say so? So
well, because it's right next to.
Last time I checked, Poland was not on the no-go list. So it's unlike Hungary, for instance, probably Slovakia.
Right.
And thanks God that Romania escaped this fate last Sunday.
Right.
Because that's a big place also for chess events, which I visit occasionally. But it would be disastrous for Ukraine if Romania could switch sides.
Yeah, it would be. So picking up on this point you made about we need better humans. Where do you see this going in terms of we're here to talk about the challenges of Ukraine today, but more what are the prospects for the rebuilding tomorrow? But that depends on some kind of solution to the Russian aggression, and you have a very clear perspective on what should happen, strategically, what should happen, how it should end. Can you share that with us?
Look, I think the first move you have to take before suggesting the strategy is to be objective in evaluating the position. And I think that yesterday's conversation between President Trump and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin which I think was beyond parody, but still provided us, again, it's quite valuable proof. We knew it before, but Putin saying very clearly, again, distinctly, that the war, must end with elimination of the root cause, which in his Orwellian language means destruction of Ukrainian statehood. That's the root cause of the war. So that's why for anybody in the free world who is trying to find common ground or just, like middle ground, oh yes, how can we sort it out? What kind of negotiations? There's nothing to negotiate. Ukraine wants to survive, and Ukraine is now defending the free world against Russian aggression. Putin's goal was, is, and will be, and that's not me saying, I'm simply referring to what Vladimir Putin said many times, repeated yesterday, and his propaganda keeps repeating 24/7. It's a destruction of Ukrainian statehood. Ukraine doesn't exist on Putin's world map. Ukrainian nation doesn't exist in Putin's vision of the world where might is right. So by recognizing it, we come to a simple conclusion. Either Putin succeeds, God forbid, but it doesn't look so, or he has to be destroyed. So something that the leaders of the free world, starting was just from Biden, and of course now we still hear many hesitations in Europe, cannot say Ukraine must win. Three simple words. Ukraine must win, which also means Russia must lose, must be defeated. I think the idea of Russia's defeat, it paralyzes the mind of European politicians who are not known for being very brave and very resolute. And now again, we have this kind of a stalemate, because they all know deep down that unless Putin is beaten badly and Ukrainian flag is raised in Sevastopol, so nothing will change. But they can't say that because it means that Europe will have to recognize very inconvenient truths. There is a war where Ukraine is one of the elements, because Putin is at war with Europe. Again, I'm not saying that, he has been saying that. Russia is attacking Europe, not yet directly with tanks and drones and missiles, but participating, quote unquote participating, interfering in all the political processes, and unfortunately gaining ground. So the cancer spreads if you don't cut it off at early stage. That's what we're seeing in Europe now. So Europe will have to look at this harsh reality and start acting as if you're at war. And then we hopefully will have results that have been long expected but has never materialized.
And do you see any signs that Europe is beginning to realize that it's kind of on its own, and that it cannot rely on the transatlantic alliance to solve this problem? Do you see, from your perspective, any Europe making any moves in the right direction, or are they just falling into forks and traps?
Well, yes, there are some signs. Yes, there are some moves, but the moves are very small. The behavior is very timid. These signs, they are kind of very opaque. They're not clear signs. Putin doesn't believe Europe could get serious. I mean, what about the ultimatum that Europe made on May 12th? You had leaders of 4 major European countries visiting Kyiv, just sitting next to the Ukrainian president and making big statements. And nothing happened. Okay, it's slow. Again, I'm not looking for just, small improvements here and there. I'm looking for them to come up with a strategy of winning the war. Because again, this is the war, and unlike in the game of chess, there is no tie. It's win or lose. It's black and white. It's a battle between forces of tyranny and forces of freedom. And Ukraine is a front line of this battle now. And they don't want to even contemplate publicly. Maybe they do it behind closed doors, so I doubt. The strategy of winning the war. And again, it's not rocket science. The first thing you do, you deplete the resource of your enemy. And what is Putin's strengths outside of the battlefield? Money. Where does the money come from? Cash. Oil. Where does oil go through? The north. 60% of Russian oil exports go through the north. Europe controls this northern route. Why they're still using the Danish channels? So again, it's complicated because then you have a long list of complications. And I know that. They're right. Yes, it's very difficult to find a way to confiscate Russian money, sitting $190 billion sitting in Euroclear in Belgium. Yes, it's a problem because the Saudis and Chinese will not be happy, and there are sovereign states. It's a long list of things that you have to overcome. Agreed. But the moment you accept the fact that you are at war, you have to start reconsidering your rules. You don't win the war by consensus. You win the war by fighting. And the fact is that Hungary is still there voting and standing on the way of many European decisions, and now joined by Slovakia, and thanks God, not Romania. So that's clearly an illustration that Europe is still too shy, too weak, too indecisive to say these words. And European political structure proved to be incapable of dealing with the war challenge. Europe used to have very comfortable life, live in complacency, and now with America walking away, they're awakening, and this is a very unpleasant awakening. And it seems to me that they want to go back to sleep.
Do you think the problem is that Europe has just become too, what's the word I was going to say, bureaucratic, and bureaucracy can basically stall finding any solutions? Do you think that's a reasonable assessment?
No, it goes without saying. There's a bloated bureaucracy, but bureaucracy is a product of a state or European infrastructure that has been built by several states, and the people who fill these positions, they have been nominated by those who were elected. There is an election process, and I don't think you can separate the public that always wanted just the comfort of the European life, and they didn't want to spend any money on defense, or just ignoring the fact that we have been under attack for quite a long time, and the politicians that also just went along with this public sentiment. So why to bother? So that's why we are the fourth year of the war. Fourth. So counting by let's say the chronology of World War II, 39, 40, 41, 40. We're at the end of the year 42. So and Europe is still produced or provided less help for Ukraine than North Korea for Russia. You're kidding me? It's 4 years. So Europe, money is there, resources are there, manpower is there. Europe has more manpower than America. Yes, Europe was lagging behind, not enough manufacturing power for weapons, but you could have done it in 4 years' time. In just I'm sure in 6 months you could have beefed it up if you had this this project as your top priority. So I think that it's now again Europe will have to move. Because it's simple, it's either EU works or it doesn't, have any place on the political map. I wrote several articles recently, one for Le Figaro, two for Die Welt, just trying to push European politicians and just influence as much as I could the public opinion. Again, it's moving, but it's very slowly, because at the end of the day, it's also about national sentiments. And Ukraine is bleeding now. It's sacrificing, just defending Europe. And then you could see that in Europe, there's some nations that recognize it. I mean, I have no doubt that whatever, if worst come to the worst and Baltic nations attack, Finland will come into the war. That's again, I speculate, but that's what I feel. There's a genetic memory of Russian aggression. So obviously Baltic nations will fight as much as they could. Poles, I'm here, I don't want you to sound negative, but are you sure you will fight if you're not directly attacked? Hopefully, yes, because you also have genetic memory. But that's already questions. But the problem is you go further west, and you have less and less appetite to fight, because it's not just about a number of people who are willing to join the army or standing on the field. It's not just about all the weapons. It's about your readiness to sacrifice for defending your country. Ukrainians showed it's beyond, imaginable limits. again, I have no doubts about Baltic nations. Again, Finland, probably Poland, but I'm not sure about Sweden. Yeah, and then again, there's the rest of the world, the Western countries, are willing to make sacrifices. It doesn't seem so to me yet, because again, people have to understand the threat is existential. And Putin's war on Ukraine is his first step of rebooting the world order that he hates. It's not about compromises, treaties, agreements. Again, this is the normal international relations. It's about might is right, back to not 20th, maybe 19th century. And unfortunately, he definitely has a counterpart across the Atlantic that has a very similar view of global affairs.
Well, that's the next point, is that you wrote this brilliant article, which I read. I didn't read the second part, you mentioned it when we met, but the Putinization of America, which makes me, and I was just asking myself the question, continually going around the piece of all the issues and the forces at work. Do you think Putin is playing a better game of chess? It is a big chessboard. This is some multi-dimensional chess game that's going on. Do you think Putin is playing a better game of chess, or do you think he's overplaying his hand and that this is more likely to not end well than end well for Putin?
As you can guess, I hear the question about Putin playing chess just very often and for quite a long time.
I'm sure you do.
Yes, it's a favorite, comparison. Putin plays chess, Obama plays checkers, or now Trump plays this chess, Putin plays that chess. My response, and I'm coming very strong with my response, is that I'm here to defend the integrity of my beloved game. The game of chess has very strict rules, and it's a game where 100% of information is available. And you have, of course, element of luck, but still it's very much based on your ability to use your resources that are known for your opponents as well. Now, Vladimir Putin, if you want to find any comparison of the board game, has been unfortunately successfully playing poker. Because in poker you can win by having a weak hand. If you have enough resources, cash, to bluff, and you have, it's a strong nerves to bluff. And also, if you can read your opponents at the table that do not have the same strong nerve and can fold by being paralyzed or by being, intimidated by your arrogance. And Putin kept doing it for many years. He has been winning, a game after game at this geopolitical poker table because the opposition always folded cards. We seriously believe that, Russia could challenge America? In 2008, or just attacking the Republic of Georgia, or in 2013 in Syria, or 2014. So, you're telling me that Obama could have not stopped at the annexation of Crimea? Just for a moment, replace Obama with Reagan? I don't think it will last for more than 24 hours. They go back. Again, it's a risk. But that's exactly what Putin counted for. They don't want any risk because they want to play safe. You don't play safe at the poker table. Now, with Trump, I don't know whether it's a poker or what, because are you sure Trump is playing against Putin, or just, he's just signaling what cards have other players at the table? So, again, whatever Trump has been doing, it's obviously played straight into Putin's hands. And while I'm reluctant to answer questions about very intimate relations between Trump and KGB, so the simple question anybody has answered is what Trump would do differently if he were, I insist, if he were a Russian agent.
Does anybody else want to ask Mr. Kasparov? I'm sure you know. Judith, do you want to ask Mr. We have Judith in the audience here today. She's joining us tomorrow evening.
Amazing. You start with the Hungarian. Yes, of course, she's a great friend and a chess player.
Does anybody else want to ask Gary a question before we move on to the Ukraine?
Can I just ask, what's that behind you? What's your background today? Is that Manhattan?
background.
You may
yes,
not
I'm-
even see that.
Yes.
That
no,
is
no, no,
Manhattan.
I'm really in Manhattan, but in my apartment, but it's Manhattan on the Upper West Side. So,
Okay,
and it's just,
thank
you know, just to make sure that, you know, that's the background correctly reflects my whereabouts.
Thank you very much. So, and thank you for joining us, and you will be joining us tomorrow night as well, live.
Yep.
Is that
no,
correct?
Yes,
Absolutely.
not live at the
I
event,
will.
but live,
Live online.
Online, yes.
No,
Thank you
live, yes, live on the, yes. Of course. Thank you
Richard,
very much. Okay,
may,
and
may,
good
may I
luck.
ask a question, please? May I ask a question? So, from your perspective, what Ukraine lacks currently, where we need to put our focus regarding fighting what we are facing at the moment? Thank you.
Look, it's a difficult question for me to answer because you are being bombed by the country that's, I mean, somehow it's just, I still belong to the country. Not that, you know, I have anything in common with Putin regime. I have probably one of the longest records of fighting Putin. My first article warning about his threat to the free world dated January 4, 2001 in the Wall Street Journal. But still, you know, just I recognize that anybody who came from Russia, even myself, you know, carries a certain amount of guilt for the fact that this country now is presenting the greatest threat to global stability and is continuing this genocidal war against Ukraine. I mean, to say it's tough is to say very little, if anything. I understand that the attacks will step in. So somehow I believe the time is on your side. Because I think, again, with this phenomenal amount of resilience and heroism demonstrated by Ukrainians and ability to withstand this pressure, I think this time is not serving Putin well. So you just have to, again, you have to keep fighting because it's changing. It's slow. It's painfully slow. It makes me, you know, they're really angry to see how slow the free world is coming to the rescue of your bleeding country. But I think the trend shows that Putin's resources are not unlimited. I wish Ukraine could be a little bit more specific in if you just working with let's say people like me. I think this is one of the if you forgive me for being blunt. So I think one of the problems is that Ukraine never wanted to look at the phenomena that is some kind of with contempt called good Russians. And I believe that much more could be done, not just by Ukraine, by the free world, by depleting Putin of resources. It's not just money, brains. I think this is something that I would strongly suggest will be reconsidered because Putin still has enough people to send to the battlefield. It's to the meat grinder. This is just to mobilize and send it. He doesn't have the same luxury with brains. And I think it's long ago, Ukraine with Western allies could actually offer a way for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Russians to get out. And that's exactly what we need, to take computer experts, engineers, financiers to ruin Putin's war machine from inside. So I have been suggesting it back in May 2022, just with a simple declaration that includes, among other things, three key statements. War is criminal, regime illegitimate, Crimea is Ukraine. As long as somebody is publicly signing the document, this person will have a chance to go through the normal process of reintegrating himself or herself into the free world. And that's the way to fight, because you have to deplete Putin's resources. You have to make his war machine less effective. And unfortunately, again, this view was not popular because it's politically incorrect. But I don't have to remind you, every engineer who stays in Russia and who could be now living in Portugal, America, or God knows where, is one extra missile that flies into Ukrainian sky, kills people. So I want a comprehensive plan of Ukraine winning the war, recovering those territories, destroying Putin's regime, but you will require a considerable component of these so-called good Russians like myself to be offered an opportunity to make more damage to Putin's dictatorship.
That's a very interesting
Thank
approach.
you. Thank you.
And the question was from Anna Chubotina, one of our online guests. Anna, do you want to add anything to that?
No, thank you. Thank you for your answer, and thank you for being so persistent in supporting Ukraine.
Thank you. Now, there's one more thing that I should say, and in fact, we should have said it before. Judith, who's already spoken today, Judith Polgar, is universally regarded as the greatest ever female chess player in history. That's why we're so honored to have you with us, Judith. She remains active in world chess, including successfully getting chess into the school curriculum in Hungary. That's something that should be mentioned. And she's also founded Global Chess Festival. Thank you, Judith.
Which reminds me, Gary, I did actually have a question here. I was going to kick it off, but I thought better of it. About the fact that Judith's had success for that. Do you think that chess skills, deep chess skills, let's say, can help people perform better in life and in business? Is it an aid? I mean, do you feel that because of your, let's call it, level and strength of chess, you see moves ahead and can postulate, the future more easily than others, or because you've been postulating about the future that we should see for Putin and Ukraine, and I'm just wondering if you feel that your chess skills give you an advantage to. I'll be very honest, I'm nowhere near your level or Judith's level, but I find it really helps me in my postulating the future.
I wrote a whole book a long time ago, 18 years ago, 19 years ago actually, How Life Imitates Chess, where I try to answer this question. In short, the aptitude for playing chess is nothing else than aptitude for playing chess. But there are certain chess skills, like analyzing the position, just, with a dose of objectivity, contemplating the strategy, seeing the connections between actions on one side of the board and other side of the board. So if you know how to apply them, and I emphasize, if you know how to apply them, that might be very helpful. But it doesn't offer you automatic advantage. It's about your ability to apply these certain chess skills, and I guess you are successful in doing so, to other walks of life. Again, it in theory and often in practice it does help, but there's no automatic connection because again, being a chess player is not just being good at math.
In terms of Judith's work, I think it's a fantastic idea to get chess taught really well at a young age.
Oh, no. It's just I've been advocating for this for 30 years. No, if you can introduce sort of proper chess lessons at early or just in elementary schools, that will be very helpful because again, in short, the fundamental challenge for modern education is that we're still teaching what? We're still teaching content. While every kid in the room now could just, slide his or her finger on the screen and just learn more than the teacher can tell them for a year. So we have to switch from teaching what to teaching how. So it's more about, again, application of your knowledge. And here the game of chess could actually play a very important role.
Thank you, Mr. Kasparov. We should be asking this question to Judith. No?
We can.
Is that, in your opinion, would you pick up the mic, Judith?
Yeah.
You don't want to speak tonight?
She's off duty now. She's off duty. She just popped in to see what was going on. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sir, would you please stay with us for as long as you can as we discuss the war by Russia onto Ukraine? As one of the good Russians. I think it's now time to pass the mic through the crowd and ask you all
if we can just all introduce ourselves and just so everyone else knows. Ganna, can I?
You've got mics on the little tables.
We've already introduced you, so it's just,
Okay, my name is Ganna Karegina. I'm CEO of NUT Ukraine, and also now I'm working as an international leasing director in NUT Holding.
Hi, Peter Morris of Gage Partners. I still have a lot of retail and hotels and other projects in the Baltics.
Hi, my name is Rafał Giersz. I'm an architect. I'm leading the architectural company Chapman Taylor in Poland.
Hi, Severina Afanasiev. I'm head of our ICS Poland. Thank you.
Hi, Marcel Sedlak, HB Revis, office developer and asset manager.
Johnny Hallett, Cushman and Wakefield, Central and Eastern Europe and Nordics.
Hello, Robert McLean. I'm founder and publisher of The Prime, based in Prague.
Mark Ray from Sentient, based in Budapest. We're project and cost managers.
Hi, Dave Dixon. I'm a partner at Denton's. I lead our NATO Eastern Flank Legal Alliance, which is Denton's led, but I'm a failed real estate lawyer.
Remke van der Kroft. I'm a partner with the OKW law firm based in Warsaw.
Jan Trybulski, I'm heading Kajima Properties Europe Investment, the office in Poland.
James Huckle from Stage Capital. We're a private equity and real estate investor in Europe.
Przemek Oleksy from ASB in Poland, and we are accountants and tax advisors, so we count the money, basically.
Hi, I'm Frank Brick. I'm a journalist at the Green Street News, which is a real estate news portal, as probably many of you know. I hope we are trying to cover CE more, that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Peter Panek. I'm with White & Case law firm, and in my walks of life, I also work for the Czech president, Petr Pavel, as a lawyer.
Yeah. Hello, Alek Fidulin and from EBRD, covering Ukraine, Poland, and splitting time between London and Warsaw, actually, now. And sorry for being late.
Hi, Ivailo Mishev, CE Director of BLD, the leading Bulgarian residential developer and part of the leading real estate holding in the country, AG Capital.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now the floor belongs to Richard and your questions.
Well, sort of. So it's not, first of all, it's just really nice to catch up with you guys again. It really is just a little bit of a catch up to see what progress and what, whether any greater obstacles and so on, and things keep catching our eyes. And those of us in the room who are, keeping an eye on how things are going in Ukraine, we hear some surprising moves. Actually, if I can just start with Volodymyr there. Volodymyr's in the top right corner for everybody. What caught our eye this year is Dragon Capital sprang up into the Ceeqa nominations for a deal purchasing the Caravan discount. What's it called? Caravan. Yeah. Caravan Outlet Mall.
Outlet Mall.
That's right. My brain fart. That was just, we can understand even planning new ones like Ghana is discussing, will tell us something about the Ocean Mall. I can imagine rebuilding damaged ones, as a lot of you guys there are doing, but actually acquiring a mall in Kiev at this moment in time must have taken some particular views on or some particular circumstances. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's always about some special situations. And in this particular case, that was the main reason why we acquired the mall. First of all, we have 5 malls in our portfolio, 2 of them in Kyiv, 1 in Vinnytsia, 1 in Lviv. So now we have 6 malls. Now we have 3 in Kyiv, so now we have 4. We like malls. They perform probably better than any other sector of real estate, commercial real estate in Ukraine, because of relatively strong consumer power in urban population. Because of course we are in the state of war, but the internal flows of population are such that within larger cities, the population is actually grew, or at least didn't decrease, especially starting from Kyiv and to the west from Kyiv. So the turnovers per square meter and OCRs are quite strong for retail. So we like the sector, and when you have a good team, acquiring another asset is not a big stretch. Plus, it was a special situation. We managed to acquire it well below the replacement cost and the decent yield to a very depressed NOI. So that was the logic behind it.
And what is the... actually, Max, I think, might have some stats with him on the future pipeline of retail, in particular, in Ukraine, is looking reasonably strong, despite the circumstances, isn't it? Is Max there? Max, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. So would you like me?
Do you want to? Did you work out how to do share screen?
Yeah, I can share some.
Yeah.
Some numbers. Oops. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, talking about the market in general, what we have now, as you know, we have this retail well-being index, which we launched 3 years ago. So it shows us how we are recovering now, step by step. Now we have retail well-being index. It's like a combination of footfall, vacancy, and rental rates. And now we have 30 points. And when war started, we had 20 points, and before the war we had 35. So according to the RWBI, the market recovered by approximately 85% now. But it's Ukraine average. Ukraine is very different. Each region has something specific. And I would say that western part, its central part in Ukraine, the business much better than north and east and south. And here you can see rates in Ukraine, and that is why the situation has such a big difference between regions. Because in some regions we have up to 50–30% of working time under A rates, and some regions we have only 2 or 3% during the working time. But Ukraine average we have 10% of working hour under A rates. But the good news is that new shopping centers coming, and we have a lot of openings since the war started. In general, if we're talking, we have 56 shopping centers opened or going to be opened in next 2 years, and in total it's about 1 million GLA, and 21 shopping centers already opened, and another 35 going to be opened next 2 years. Of course, all of them are, not all of them, but most of them are small. We have about 40 shopping centers, less than 20,000 GLA, and most of them are located in the western region, western or central part of Ukraine. So despite the war, Ukraine is still attractive for investment. Also, this is specific investment in terms of geography and capital size.
That's really interesting. Is this all stuff that, Oleg, that you're dealing with day to day? Really? We're using the same sources.
We cannot hear Oleg.
Yeah. So that will also explain, gives a bit of a powerful logic behind continued investment. But of course, we know the challenges that you have pursuing those investments in terms of accessing debt finance and insurance and all the basics. So I guess that's where EBRD steps in to help. That's plugging the gap. Are you, Oleg, because when we last spoke, which was 2 years ago, you were much more focused on critical infrastructure at that point. Has EBRD's attention shifted at all to commercial infrastructure? I mean, the fact that you're working with these guys suggests probably it has.
Use the mic? Yeah. Look, I think that shift hasn't happened because the country still needs that, but the team that I'm part of is the real estate team. Maybe when we spoke in 2023, it was, look, still the same message. The two priorities for us in Ukraine is living sector and that's industrial logistics. That said, having heard how actually strong retail is, and Budhaus, Max's company, is very strong in that particular sector, and Volodymyr and Dragan is very strong in that sector as well. Of course, for the right project, we'll look at retail as well. But if you ask me in general, living plus industrial logistics, same answer would be, frankly speaking, from me in Poland or the Baltic states. It's another market that I cover. So in a way, fundamentals prevail, despite the war and despite the thing that actually things are radically different if you look. I mean, you saw the map that Max showed with rates and all of this, and but still the same story pretty much. So but I would say probably a key difference between 2 years ago and today, that housing has become for us such a critical point, and not only in Ukraine, but in general. Right. And especially European Union-driven sort of, let's say, push, because we're still quite, I mean, the name of the bank is European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, so we do feel the push.
We need to do some reconstructing,
yeah.
And what, Andrzej Brinzilo, what does all of this align with, and you, Anna, with what you're working with? Because you're also both involved in retail. We've got definitely a retail focus going on here. Is that in tune with what we're hearing here, and the stats that Max has shared is in tune with your experience as retailers, retail investors?
Well, I agree with both, with Max and with Oleg, because as a retail asset manager now and former banker back in time, I share Oleg's position because I understand the policy of EBRD and that they are not that much commercially oriented, but I believe, I mean, like that's my opinion, obviously personal. They combine commercial with social impact, and that's why Oleg emphasizes strong appetite towards affordable housing, which I believe is the most important task for the entire market, because the housing sector actually damage as of Q4 last year was $60 billion US, according to Kyiv School of Economics report, which I believe is the only one available public report with good analysis. And to give you an example, the entire retail property sector damage is $500 million, which is also quite some money, but 60 billions versus $500 million, that's the difference. Of course, there are many regions that you cannot consider anymore because they are occupied, and therefore you can do nothing with that. But many people from those regions, they have been relocated more west or to Europe or to Western Ukraine or central Ukraine. And therefore, fundamentally, this sector sound pretty much interesting for potential development. And there is strong appetite from supranational institutions, because when I think that's important to understand that the key difference for development in Ukraine and in CE is that you cannot use the logic that is applicable in Central Eastern Europe in Ukraine, because there is no capital market here in the sense of the you guys get used to work with. Here you have to talk to Oleg and Vlaho in order to get financing, most likely in equity form, because that is also a question mark, right? It's too risky. And that's absolutely different game here. Coming back to retail property sector, surprisingly, I think everybody's surprised by that, but performance of this sector is extremely well. Even in Odessa, which is probably not the best region in the country, but definitely not the worst, it's pretty much okay, regardless of the fact that we lost our richest client, which is Sailor. I think there are 20, according to our information, 20,000 families, like 20,000 sailors in the region, and major part of them left the region, so they live abroad. And that's obviously impacted our consumption power, but still recovery on the way. And year 2024 was much better than previous 2 years, much better in terms of retail consumption, in terms of residential commissioning, in terms of seaport figures, and in terms of touristic figures, which is actually pretty much represent the entire region, because Odessa is about seaports and about tourism. Those are core sectors of the regional economy. So I would say like that if you want to do something in Ukraine today, you can do it, invest in Ukraine in terms of retail, in terms of logistics, or affordable housing. In all of these cases, you need to cooperate with someone like EBRD, someone who is not that sensitive towards commercial or country risk, and is supported by some policies as such institution should be supported. I mean, they don't look only for margin. So I see EBRD, but I believe that EBRD real estate team is absolutely number one in this region. I mean, nobody is even close to them in all aspects, actually, in all aspects. So, yes, and thank you for them, because we are partnered with EBRD and we are proud that we have these guys with us. Otherwise, I even don't want to think what would happen to us if you would have classical commercial bank on board. So special thanks for the EBRD.
I have to say thank you, Richard, for this. Дуже дякую, Андрій. That's just very pleasant to hear. Thank you.
Дякую тобі, Олег.
And so how, we're talking about how actually well the retail sector is standing up. How does it compare? I mean, I imagine the logistics sector is standing up as well, because it's an important part of the machinery of war as well as life. But what about the office and the residential sector we've just heard about? What about the office segment, for example? The office sector, is that in any way... I don't think I've even discussed it with anybody up until now. I don't think anyone has ever asked me the question, or I've asked anyone else the question. Do you know the answer in terms of demand, leasing demand, investment demand, pipeline, you know, the basic questions for the health of the office market? Does anybody know anything about that?
I think Volodymyr can...
Volodymyr, yes.
In office and logistics. From my point of view, offices are dead in Ukraine, logistics is half dead, and retail surviving, and housing booming, especially in western part. So it's like a short version about what is happening.
Short summary.
Can tell much more about offices and logistics.
And what about Ghana? Do you want to tell us something about the Ocean Mall?
I can say the same. I agree 100% with Maxim that for offices it's not the best situation, and also regarding the retailers and regarding the tenants and investors, but for the retail market, I think it's the strongest one. And the project that we have possibility to make the commercialization Ocean Mall, which belong to Mandarin Plaza
What's
Group.
the size and what's the investment on Ocean Mall?
110,000 square meters of GLA.
Right.
And the investment you can imagine. But it's one of the series of mega malls, because Mr. Vagif he calls them like mega malls because it's a typology of these projects. He has already Lavina opened, Blockbuster opened. The pipeline it's around 2 million square meters. It's what he has an ambition to do. Now Ocean Mall is the most important one. We consider it like an entry project for international retailers. Also because we already know that the main international players will open here flagship stores. And if we take, for example, sport retail, it will be only such kind of concepts which now don't exist in Ukraine. And even if we take CEE territory, also in the most cases, it will be the first opening of such kind of concept. So we are very happy to work with this project. It's not difficult. It's very difficult for sure, because super difficult to convince international retailers in general to look on Ukrainian map, I would say. And I am very grateful for such events like you are organizing, because it's also give a possibility to share what is the actual situation in Ukraine. And yes, there are a lot of risks, geopolitical risks, financial risks, a lot of risks, but still it's a very interesting market.
Well, that side of things is always very inspiring, the resilience that is being shown by the Ukrainians. But the reason I'm asking this question about office is actually, Volodymyr, I know Dragon Capital can tell us something about that. We also have the leader of one of the most significant office developers in the room at the moment, Marcel Sedlak. He's the CEO of HB Reavis. Marcel, what's your take on what the Ukraine situation does and doesn't say to a developer like you?
Oh, okay, it's functioning. Well, being honest, I'm not super familiar with the fundamentals or the dynamics of the current office market in the key Ukrainian cities, but I think the participants in the call in a pretty straightforward way describe what is the current situation on the office market. But if you think of it in the midterm and the long term, so current depressed supply, I would assume, and also I can imagine multiple challenges on the demand side. But thinking midterm and long term, that just in my view, it's somehow accumulating the future opportunities. With at some point, and all of us in this room, we believe that at some point things will dramatically change for the good. And then it's just a question of time when all this demand on the service industry and all the occupiers on the office market will just start. And happy, of course, happy to hear what is the view of the participants on the call.
I can briefly comment on the office sector.
Go ahead.
If nobody minds. We are unfortunate to have about 150,000 square meters of office space in our portfolio. And this is the most problematic part. In general, we have 600,000. The size of our portfolio, mostly retail, which is kind of the best sector. So the houses are kind of actually doing quite well given the circumstances. But offices are problematic for two reasons. You have low demand. You have very high vacancies, you have very low rents. And, when you have a vacancy, you basically have a negative rent. So your NOIs sometimes collapse kind of multifold. This is more of a problem for Class B, and also there is a factor of location because of the risk of shelling. Actually, just in December, we lost one of our best business center, Class A business center, because it was located, it was just targeted. So the shelling came with losses of about $5 million. But I think the recovery will happen only after the victory. Last year we were always saying after the victory, now we are saying after the war, because the situation is unfortunately
complex.
Not as bright, complex, yes. But no, the victory will come sooner or later. But in general, things are better than they could have been. And as an investor, if you don't mind, I'll just spend like a minute to give a summary of what the things are here, because we have been on the ground for a long time. And so first of all, there are many good things that happened in the past year since we spoke last time. We have war risk insurance available. So I think this is very important because all our properties we insured against the shelling, which is a realistic risk. No investor can willingly take this risk. And it's costly, but it is available. And we are now working on the package with the Lloyd's, with the kind of pool our properties with a cap of $30 million. We negotiated the terms. They are, as you can imagine, expensive, but it's not about the price. It's more about the availability. Also, MIGA offered the war risk insurance for our industrial park that we are doing together with Oleg and the BRD as kind of equity partners. We received it 2 years ago, and MIGA recently confirmed that they will extend it for further phases of this project. And we know that they received funding to support further investments in terms of providing war risk insurance. This is the main risk, in my view. Another factor to keep in mind is that there are not so many distressed opportunities on the market. Because when we entered this war, market players were not over-levered, as opposed to, let's say, the crisis of 2008 or even the crisis of 2014. And the country is receiving significant financial support, so the devaluation of the local currency was not as bad as it could have been. The hryvnia was $2.27. At the beginning of the war, it is now 41. 3.5 years later, I think in Turkey it's worse than that without war. So it's not bad. So the opportunities are not really there to acquire because there are no foreclosures. Also, I know that corruption is on the mind of foreign investors, and in my view, things have improved dramatically on many aspects. Unfortunately, it's still far from European standards. But in our day-to-day business operations, we are not facing. We don't have to take these decisions. Whether to keep your business and pay a bribe or not. So if you're not trying to do anything illegal, you don't need to deal with corruption from our experience. I think this is quite overblown. Another thing is that we have had a number of sales. We have a portfolio of more than 30 properties. We made a few sales, and all of them were to local buyers. Local buyers are a strong player right now because the liquidity is kept within the country. And especially retailers, they are doing well operationally. They have strong liquidity, so they can afford buying an office center, a warehouse. This is basically our experience as well. And in terms of international capital, there is a dramatic increase in interest in Ukraine since last year. We, as an investment company, have been trying to attract, besides the BRD, all other players like IFC, DFC, EIB, and we have not been successful. Spending, more than a year, sometimes 2 years in talks. For example, with DFC, we almost were successful in attracting a sizable loan, and after the elections, it was in US, it was put on hold. But after, let's say, October last year, there was a huge increase in interest from all the IFIs, and Ukraine is now on the radar screen in terms of equity and debt. So this makes our life more interesting and exciting. We see some prospects of raising some private equity funds in the next, by end of the year, basically. And I would just just one more word. We are partners with EBRD, and we are closing another kind of JV structure on residential with EBRD now. So we have a partnership with EBRD on industrial and residential project in Lviv. This is something that we are planning to do together with Oleg's team, hopefully by autumn.
Thanks for that update. Very, very interesting and enlightening, because it is, a little bit from this side looking in. It is quite difficult to understand how it all keeps going. So it's really interesting to hear that how the wheels turn and where they turn to keep it going. Because of course, what's the population now? Even despite the exodus, it's still 40 million. Is it 40 million?
It's about 30, 28.
It's about 30 now.
30, 35.
Yeah,
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
No, but the estimation is on the level 30, 35 millions. But it's very difficult to understand, because those data, whether they're absent or they're closed. For example, we understand that residential numbers for Kyiv are more or less on the same of pre-war times, because also of internal migration. But for such cities where we operate in Zaporizhzhia and Kryvyi Rih, so it's difficult to estimate. But if judge on visitors' trends, which unfortunately decreased in comparison to pre-war times, 20-30% at least, so we can say that these large industrial cities, which estimated 700,000 citizens before war, maybe like 20-30% of their citizens, but just like an estimation. So, and of course, I listen to my colleagues, and the situation depends much on where your project is. Yeah, we have 2 projects in Kyiv and 2 projects under operation, Zaporizhzhia and Kryvyi Rih, which are frontline cities. Zaporizhzhia is only 40 kilometers from the front line, and Kryvyi Rih is up to 80 kilometers to the front line. And of course, the situation is very, very different. In Kyiv, our projects already achieved the result more or less of the pre-war levels. For example, our project in Kyiv Prospect, the previous year was one of its best since opening in 2014 in terms of incomes. But for regional cities, of course, the situation is difficult. Maybe some of you remember last year I told about that one of our projects in Kryvyi Rih was damaged after the missile attack on the city, and I'm happy to say that we fully restored it. And I also want to, if I can do that, share a picture just to show you the progress. If you can see it, just one picture before or after missile attack and after rebuilding the project. So we've made just a great progress. So the attack happened in January 2024, and it took us only 6 months to reopen the shopping center in autumn 2024, and now it's fully opened and only 10% of vacancy, and we are closing it hopefully within next few months, of course, depending on the overall situation. And for our shopping center in Zaporizhzhia, I told you this is very close to the front line. We have now 100% occupancy rate, which I estimate very good results, take into consideration 40 kilometers to the front. But anyway, we need to understand that incomes dropped and they decreased almost twice since the pre-war times, mainly because overall military situation in these regions, ongoing shelling, air raids, which can take up to 50% of working hours, but still this high occupancy rate, turnovers, recovery of visitor numbers, they show the potential of these cities. And of course, it will much depend their future on the demographical situation in future and development of these very important before war and still now industrial cities. So, and I think they have a great future if it will be supported on the national level and also by such institutions as EBRD, not only residential, but also commercial real estate, because kind of emotional, but anyway, when we have only one large shopping center for the region, it's very important for local communities to have this object working, because it's a large contributor to the development of the communities. It's one of the largest taxpayers, and it's very important for the overall economical situation. Thank you.
Fantastic insights there, Anna. Is anybody burning to ask any questions, or just enjoying the show? Enjoying the show. Great. Well, I think, to be honest, I think we should start wrapping up. We've got the jury dinner starting soon. You guys know what that involves. Andrei, we're going to have to work with our tech team to see if we can get you online at the jury dinner as well, because we didn't plan for that, because we thought...
Do you have some delivery from Warsaw to Kyiv? Don't you?
You know what we could do to stop you having to sit there and watch and listen for 4 hours when we can't hear you?
It's not going to be 4 hours.
We've got 2 new categories. What we could do is just send you the proxy voting form, and you could just complete the proxy voting form and send it through to us here. And it's very simple. You just go on the short list. It's got all the numbers thing. You just put your highest preference in each category, which you'll remember from the first round. And we can do that rather than... But let's talk about that after this meeting. I'll come back to you. I'll give you a call.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing your insights, your information, and all your valuable experience with us during this 3rd edition of Ukraine Live Connect. We are hoping to never have another one after the end of the war.
We're hoping by this time next year, peace will have broken out.
Thank you.
And we'll all be working in Ukraine.
Yes, a big round of applause to our Ukrainian friends and colleagues. And thank you very much for participating.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Ghana, as well, for joining us. And everybody else, thank you guys for joining us.
Those of you who are joining us for dinner, I believe about 6:30 we'll be sitting down. We're rounding up now. And those who've come just for the Live Connect, thank you very much for participating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.